So I've spent hundreds of hours analyzing sales funnels from some of the top coaches and gurus out there while working with multiple 5 and 6 figure entrepreneurs to help them scale their info businesses to multiple 6 figures per month. And in that entire time frame, not a single one of them needed more traffic to hit their next milestone. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how the marketing treadmill keeps coaches stuck running in place no matter how much they post, why more clients can actually destroy your business instead of growing it, and how the entire industry tricks you into thinking volume is the answer when it's actually not. At the end, I'll reveal the exact system I use that 10x's your revenue without changing a single thing about your marketing, gets you exponential results from the same client volume, and turns your business into an actual asset instead of just a job. Without any further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now, before I get into the 5 core systems, I need to break down exactly why everyone's obsessed with the wrong thing. More ads, better hooks, new funnels, different thumbnails. And yeah, that stuff obviously matters, but there's something that nobody talks about, something that 10x my revenue without changing a single thing about my marketing. And when I finally figured it out, I was actually pissed because it's so obvious, but everyone, literally everyone, is ignoring it. And here's the thing, most coaches are running what I call the marketing treadmill. Spend $10,000 on content, get 10 clients, some get results, some don't, mixed testimonials, need to post more next month, repeat, right? Nobody's spending 10K on content, obviously, like maybe 1K. But the crazy part is that this never ends. You don't stop posting. If you stop posting, you stop growing. Your CAC stays the same or gets worse. And your churn rate forces you to constantly replace clients just to stay flat. And you know what that is? A job, not a business. So this is what the treadmill looks like, and most of you guys are on this, but there's another way. So let's say you get 10 clients, 8 get killer results, 8 undeniable testimonials. From that, organic referrals start. The close rate jumps from 30 to 70% because they're referrals. You can charge 2 to 3x more. Better clients attract better clients, and word of mouth compounds. That's a dream, right? It's the same exact effort, but exponential returns. Now that is not a job. That is an actual asset. So you want to turn your marketing treadmill right here into the flywheel, which compounds forever. Over time, you're just increasing revenue no matter what happens. And the math here is actually brutal. So if you have 20% churn rate per month, which, believe it or not, that's actually really common here in this space, you need to replace 20% of your revenue before you can grow every single month. If you have 5% churn, that marketing budget goes to growth instead of replacement. So on the marketing treadmill, you have linear returns, CAC stays the same or increases, you stop marketing, you stop growth, and you become a replaceable commodity. With the fulfillment flywheel, you get those exponential returns. CAC decreases over time. Initial effort compounds forever, and you become an irreplaceable asset. So the question isn't how do I get more clients? The question is how do I get 80% of my clients absolutely crushing it? And this is what this whole board is about. So let's get into the LTV math. Now this is the real thing that changed my mind, and this is when I actually started thinking. So look at these 2 paths to 50K a month. Path A is the volume game. 100 clients at $500 a month, 20% churn rate. You replace 20 clients per month, 240 new clients per year. Just to stay flat, that's a $48,000 per year cost in CAC if it's $200 per client. That is just a hamster wheel. Path B is the LTV game. 10 clients at 5K a month, 5% churn rate. You replace 0.5 clients per month, which means just 1 per 2 months. 6 new clients per year to stay flat. That means $6,000 a year in CAC if $1,000 per client. That is an actual business right there. Both of these businesses are making 50K a month. One of them is just far, far easier. And here's the data that kind of proves this. Now, with Bain & Company, they did this whole research paper about this. So 5% increase in retention results in 25 to 95% increase in profits. Selling to an existing client, this is because basically selling to an existing client is a 70% close rate. Selling to a new prospect is a 5% close rate. That's a 14x difference. It costs 5 to 25 times more to acquire a new client versus expand the average order value of the existing clients you already have. So most coaches are just addicted to acquisition because they have leaky retention and they don't want to face it. They think I just need more volume when they actually need less churn. So if you fix fulfillment, your retention improves, you need fewer new clients, and you can focus on quality, you can get better results, you have higher prices, and that compound effect comes in. As you can see, this is kind of a graph that goes over the revenue per client. And as the client journey increases, and this is the dream graph basically for an info business. As your client journey over time progresses, your LTV or your revenue per client, let's call it, should be going up as high. So month 0, they give you $3,000. Next month or month 3, they give you $5,000. Month 6, they give you $8,000. Month 12, they give you $15,000. This is what I like to call a fulfillment ladder. This is what you want to get your business to, because on the back end, those average, like those extra upsells that you see, this is literally just basically an upsell. And as you add these upsells onto the back end, you can spend exponentially more on each client. And on top of that, you can just keep on making more and more money without having to deal with getting new clients and the fulfillment hell that would ensue. So if you went from 4K average LTV to $16,000 LTV, same number of clients, you will get 4 times the revenue. That is not working, 4 times harder. That's just the same client volume with better retention and expansion. And I've seen people that DM a client that's in their community or in their mentorship program, and they close in the DMs a $3,000 to $4,000 deal. That's how insane this is. And I like to call this the land and expand model. So instead of trying to sell $25,000 programs to cold prospects, 5 to 10% close rate, high buyer's remorse, you sell a $3,000 to $5,000 pilot first. So, 30 to 50% close rate. It's a lower commitment. You deliver exceptional results in 30 to 60 days, then offer the $15,000 to $25,000 expansion. 70% close rate now because you have proof. This is what the biggest companies in the info space are doing. They're not just hoping that somebody's going to buy their $25,000 program up front. You need to build that trust. And this is literally the entire point of upsells. And this obviously, like, as you add more to the ladder, your LTV increases further and further and further. You spend more and more on client acquisition, and you literally just buy out the whole market. That's how you scale on these higher levels. So again, 4K pilot offer, 15K expansion conversion rate goes to 70% close rate. And then you can even add a $25,000 plus VIP tier after 6 months. The math here is pretty insane. So 100 calls, let's say you get 40 pilots at 4K. If you have a decent close rate, you get 160 grand off that. Just off of the back end, if you get 28 expansions at 20K, which this is like really high, honestly, like 28 expansions, I would say you get maybe 20 if you're a normal person who is not actually skilled. If you're skilled, you'll be able to get to 28 expansions. If you're working with someone who knows what they're doing, this is the stuff you should be expecting at a minimum, or not a minimum, but like as average. But if you're just doing this alone, you probably will hit like maybe 30, 20, because your close rate probably sucks, and then maybe 20 expansions, or 15 expansions by the end of it, right? That'll result in $720,000 in total though. Versus 100 calls at 8 closes at $25,000, that is only 200 grand. You just got 3.6% or 3.6 times more revenue with the same number of calls, just a different model. And by the way, this is exactly what we help coaches build out. So the whole system. If you want someone to just implement this stuff properly instead of figuring it out yourself, I'll leave a link down below in the description. But anyways, back into the frameworks. This, number 3, is the fulfillment moat. This is one of the most important parts of this entire board. And this is why fulfillment beats the marketing every single time. Your competitors can copy your ads, your hooks, your landing page, your offer, everything, but they cannot copy your results. If you have 50 video testimonials from people who went from $5,000 a month to $30,000 a month in 90 days, that is not something a competitor can just, quote, copy. That takes years to build, and once you have it, it's an unfair advantage that compounds forever. That right there is what you have as a moat. And the data actually backs this up really, really hard. Video testimonials, on average, boost conversion by 25 to 34%, up to 80% in some cases. Landing pages with video testimonials, 39% conversion with 22% without. 77% of viewers say video testimonials influence their purchase decision. Emails with video testimonials generally have a way higher click-through rate in terms of links, and 2.1 times higher click-to-purchase rate as well, which means when someone clicks that link, they're twice as likely to actually buy. Read that again. Landing pages with video testimonials convert at 39%, without them at 22%. That is not just incremental improvement. That is literally a completely different business. That is not just better sales skills, right? They're not improving at an insane rate like this every month over month. That's just the social proof doing the selling for you. Because most coaches think that they need to be better closers. That's just completely wrong. Most of you, if you can talk to another human being, you have decent sales skills. You need your results to just speak so loudly that prospects close themselves. That's the real challenge. And how do you get those results? Fulfillment systems. 5 core systems that make all of this happen. And I'll get into all of these in detail. Number 4, the first 72 hours. This is onboarding. So this is where 90% of coaches actually blow it. Here's what most coaches do. So client pays, $10,000 on Friday. Monday, here's the login info. See you on our first call next week. The first call is 7 to 10 days after the purchase. By then, buyer's remorse has already set in. Client has not logged in, hasn't taken action. They feel uncertain about the whole thing. And the first call just starts with, oh, so what do you want to work on? This is a massive mistake because the first 72 hours is when loss aversion peaks. After paying you $10,000, your client's brain is exactly as follows. I just lost $10,000. Did I make a mistake? That's loss aversion, and it peaks within the first 3 days. If nothing happens during those 3 days, no value, no progress, no certainty, the brain amplifies the loss. I lost 10K and I don't know what happens next. Hello, refund request, right? Then that means your priority right now is first value by day 3. Here's the data that proves this. So one business tested moving first value from day 10 to day 5. The result we had was early churn dropped under 3%. That's a 5-day shift, creating potentially 50 to 90% reduction in dropouts. So what is exactly the fix? What you want to do is within hour 1 to 24, you want to have the welcome and certainty. 24 to 48, you want to have the access and commitment, and by 48 to 72, you should have the first win. Let me break this down. Hour 1 to 24 is the welcome plus certainty. This is about combating loss aversion immediately. So you want to give them a human welcome within 1 business day, which means not an automated email, a real person that hops on a call with them and talks to them one-on-one. A clear roadmap should be sent. So here's exactly what happens next. Number 3, a first quick win should be assigned. So achievable within like under 30 minutes. You can take the example of Iman's event, right? If you attended Iman's recent event, he gave you the workbooks right away, right? When you joined the event, he gave you the workbooks because like the people that hop on Iman's events, they aren't actually like qualified business owners. They've never had a business usually, or they've failed multiple businesses, and they're just hopping on to find some kind of get rich quick, in a way, like just something easy that they can do that makes them money. So what Iman does is that he needs to give them that quick win under 30 minutes and make them feel that dopamine hit and make them feel like they're doing a lot of work and make them feel like they're getting results and actually learn something in the process while helping him sell. So what he does is that he gave them a workbook within the event, the first workbook right when they hopped on the call. So the first 30 minutes, they were just filling out that workbook and looking through that workbook. And that gives them a very quick win under 30 minutes. And they feel like, oh, I got so much value off of that single call for completely free. That pays off the amount of time they spent with Iman, and that makes them way more likely to actually buy his stuff for money. Now, the purpose here is, again, shift the brain from did I make a mistake to this is already working. That's what you're trying to do. Next is hour 24 to 48. This is the access and commitment. This is specifically about engineering commitment through action from the client. So you want to give them all platform access. You want to confirm that it's working. Don't make them troubleshoot all of this. First milestone or deadline should be assigned. So within this week, you're going to do XYZ thing. Community introduction. If you have a community already, this should be done within the first 24 to 48 hours. And a calendar, and the calendar holds should be scheduled for the upcoming calls, which means the upcoming calls for the next week should be on their calendar already. And if you really want to, you can make it for the next 2 weeks. If you have the freedom of kind of changing up your calendar, if you have that free time, you can make it so that you have the schedule done for literally 2 weeks in advance. And this just makes them way more excited for those calls and way more prepared for those calls. And they get that dopamine hit from feeling like they're getting a ton of value from your program. And finally, you want to have them post their goals in the community, having a public commitment if you have a community. So there's actually, again, psychology behind this. Once people commit publicly, they're way more likely to follow through to stay consistent with that commitment. So then there's hour 48 to 72. First value delivery. Now this is the dopamine hit that locks them in forever. The client achieves a visible win, so however small. You celebrate that win publicly, and now the client can articulate what I'm here to achieve. This is your main goal in the situation, and once you got that dopamine hit, you've basically locked them in for the first month. And here's one more thing that nobody does. Pre-mortem. So within week 1 of coaching, you want to ask your client, imagine it's 90 days from now and you didn't get the results you wanted. What happened? And this isn't what happened from our side. This is what happened from you. So the client, what did they do wrong? Now, this sounds a bit weird, but what it does is basically the client will brainstorm a ton of failure scenarios. So I didn't make time for work, or I got overwhelmed and stopped showing up, or I hit a technical roadblock and gave up. For each scenario, you create a preventative system. So time blocking calendar holds plus accountability check-ins, overwhelm SOS protocol. So it's a cool way of saying that they just DM you one-on-one or to your one-on-one partner. Then there's a technical support channel with under 24-hour response. All of these scenarios are now blocked by these 3 new updates to your program. And the fun thing about this is that you don't actually need to do this every single time for each client. Most of these objections or these failure scenarios are going to be repeated from client to client as long as you're servicing a similar enough ICP. So you can just create a preventative system, maybe 5 to 10 preventative systems, and that will basically cover most of the people that hop onto your program. And that means that you have just increased or decreased your churn by so much just by investing a little bit of time upfront. Most coaching programs fail because of predictable and preventable obstacles, but coaches just wait for the client to hit the obstacle and then try to rescue them. Pre-mortems surface the obstacles in week 1 when the client is most motivated. Then they build prevention systems before they need them. It's like having shark-infested waters and then saying, oh, we're not going to add a sign to say that they're shark-infested waters. We're just going to wait for someone to swim within the waters and have a lifeguard save them. Very stupid. Just add a sign, right? Really easy to prevent. It's just that most people don't want to prevent it and they don't want to put in the work to actually do it. Number 5 is the accountability engine. So this is the 7x completion multiplier that I talked about. Here are some stats that actually should make you a bit uncomfortable, just to kind of paint the picture on the back end of this. Completion rates from different types of programs go as follows. With a self-paced course, you have about 12% completion rates on average. A course plus community has about 35% on average. A coaching program has 75% on average. That is a 7x multiplier. And it's not about content quality. It's the same exact content. It's the difference is basically the accountability. Clients who don't compete or complete equal clients who don't get results. Clients who don't get results, no testimonials, no referrals, negative reviews. Over time, your reputation becomes people buy but don't succeed. Eventually, you can't acquire clients because word spreads. That's why it matters for your specific business. If only 30% of your clients finish your program, you have a fulfillment problem. Fix it before scaling or you'll scale the problem. So, big problem. A lot of people don't know how to build that accountability. So how do you build accountability without micromanaging? There's something called the Zeigarnik effect. Basically, your brain holds on to uncompleted tasks and creates tension until they're closed. Too many open loops equals overwhelm, which equals a shutdown. This is the basis of the traditional course model failing. Module 1, let's say we go over module 1, right? Watch 12 videos. Client watches 3, that has opened the open loop. Module 2 is complete the workbook. Let's say the client skips, that's another open loop. Module 3 is implement strategy. Client hasn't even finished module 1, so that's another open loop. By week 3, there's 15 open loops and the client is completely paralyzed and they just stop logging in. Whereas with the coaching model, you have daily and weekly check-ins. So did you complete X? You just close the loop or rescope if they can't do it. Micro commitments, so your only job today is this one thing that you can close the loop by the end of the day. And celebrating completions means you finish module 1, good job, that results in a dopamine hit, again, from closing those loops, so they're way more likely to actually close those loops in the future. This is also kind of related to the progress principle from Harvard research. So of all the things that boost motivation during work, the single most important is making progress in meaningful work. So clients don't drop out because the program is bad most of the time. They drop out because they don't feel progress. And the way you want to do this is it doesn't have to be the final outcome. You just need a visible proof of progress. So let's say day 3, first quick win, set up, first post, first lead. Week 2, you'll have the first small result, $100 earned, first testimonial, first call. Week 4, first milestone, you get a $1,000 month and a first paying client. That's the kind of stuff you're going to be getting within a coaching program. It's not like you're going to get $100K a month within the first 2 weeks. It's just unrealistic, right? The brain needs evidence that effort equals results, and without progress signals, no matter how small, motivation will die. Number 6, the community multiplier. This is why community creates winners. Now, a lot of you guys, if you've seen a few of my videos on my channel, you'll see that, hey, I don't really like communities themselves, but when they're integrated into an actual program, they crush so hard. So there's a psychological principle called the bandwagon effect. I'm sure you've heard of this. People copy the actions of others, especially when uncertain. So if others succeeded, I can too. When a prospect is considering your $10,000 program, they're uncertain. Will this work for me? So one testimonial, this is where testimonials then come in, because testimonials are the backbone of this principle of the bandwagon effect. Let's say you have one testimonial. It worked for Sarah. The prospect thinks, but I'm not Sarah. Whereas if you have 10 testimonials from different people, so it worked for Sarah, a consultant, Mike, a coach, Jenny, an agency owner, the prospect thinks, okay, it works for different people, probably me too. But this is not just about marketing. This applies to your existing clients too. So when your clients see other clients winning, something shifts. If they can do it, so can I. This is why group coaching really a lot of the time often outperforms one-on-one. That doesn't mean that group coaching by itself outperforms one-on-one. With one-on-one, you can give specific advice to specific people, so it will always be better. But when you have group coaching plus one-on-one on top of them, the group coaching itself often outperforms in terms of what percent of people actually do the task. So if you get on a group call and tell people to do a workbook on the group call, they're less likely to do it on one-on-one. Again, because the social proof is built into the experience. Every week they show up, they see wins, they see progress, they see people like them succeeding. And so this results in the peer effect. When they see those peer wins weekly, the confidence level keeps going up much, much faster than in isolated one-on-one. So how do you structure the community for results? Every week, you want to have dedicated time for wins. Not optional, part of the program. On Monday, you want to share what you're working on this week, and Friday, you want to share your win, however small. This creates social accountability. Everyone knows what everyone is working on. Nobody wants to show up on Friday with nothing. Number 2 is peer accountability pods. So small groups of 3 to 5 clients. They check in with each other, not just with you. This does 2 things. It multiplies accountability without multiplying your time. It creates bonds that increase retention, so people don't want to leave their pod. And number 3 is result visibility. So you want to make wins impossible to miss. You want to have a dedicated wins channel, not buried in general chat, weekly wins roundup in group chats or group calls, and celebrating milestones publicly. The psychology here is really, really real. So every single time someone sees another win, their brain updates. This works. People like me are succeeding. I can too. It gives them so much more motivation to actually win themselves, which results in a flywheel that keeps on compounding. Coming back to the flywheel at the start of the video. That is the bandwagon effect working for you. So community structure you want to follow is the weekly wins ritual, non-negotiable, a small accountability pods, visible result channel, milestone celebrations, and peer-to-peer check-ins. And there's one more thing about community that actually matters for pricing. Customers paying $250 plus per month have the lowest churn rates. Why? Because there's deeper integration, organizational dependencies, switching costs. Community creates integration. Your clients build relationships with each other. They don't want to leave. The $47 a month client cancels without thinking. The $5,000 a month client has built their business around your system and made friends. Pretty crazy, right? As you scale, obviously you can increase your prices. Like $5K a month is quite unachievable for most people. I would recommend, if you're starting out, just start with like $5K for 3 months or $3K for 3 months, however much you're comfortable with charging for your first few clients. And then after that, as you get more and more results, you can start leveling up because you have more proof. And speaking of that proof, let's go over how you can make so much of that proof in the proof factory that you literally just have hundreds of case studies, because proof over promises every single time. And here's what most coaches do wrong in this situation to get proof. Let's say the client gets amazing results. The coach says, that's awesome, congrats, and they move on to the next client. 6 months later, they're trying to run content and they need testimonials. They reach out to the old client. Hey, can you do a testimonial? The client has at this point moved on. They barely remember the specifics, if they even respond to you. The testimonials become generic, great coach, helped me a lot, 5 stars. This is a worthless testimonial. Testimonials have a shelf life. The emotion and specificity fade very, very fast. So if you don't capture wins when they happen, you'll have dozens of success stories and 0 compelling case studies. So how do you do this? How exactly do you want to go over this? Let me break it down. Week 4, you want to have the first milestone and the immediate request. Let's record a 3-minute video about this win right now, right? This is when the emotions are highest, so you want to catch it as fast as possible. Week 8 is the second milestone, which is probably way bigger. This is when you get the written case study and you basically just get their whole story. And if you really want to, you can have an interview format, almost like a video testimonial type thing, or if you've seen one of those interview videos with someone who gets crazy results with a client and they talk to them over a YouTube video and talk over what they did and everything like that, you could do one of those at this point as well. But I recommend doing that more so at the end of the program, along with the video testimonial. So where were you at before we started? What changed? What specific results did you get? What would you tell someone considering this? And then at the end of the program, you can have the formal video testimonial, which is like the structured questions that address the objections. So what were you struggling with before? What changed after working together? What specific results did you get? Who is this perfect for? All that jazz. And then after this, you can build a social proof library covering every objection. I'm too old. You want to give them a testimonial from a 55-year-old. I'm in a weird niche, testimonial from a similar niche. I've tried other programs, testimonial from someone who failed elsewhere. And then I don't have time, testimonial from a busy parent with kids. When a prospect raises an objection, you send 1 to 2 testimonials addressing that exact concern, and you've basically just closed them on the spot because you have a testimonial for literally every situation. Either they just don't want your product or they really, 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 really were burned bad. Those are the only 2 possibilities. The bandwagon effect does the entire part of the selling. Other people like me succeeded, so I probably will too. It's really basic stuff. You have to stop thinking, I need to be a better closer. You need to start thinking, I need my results to speak so loudly that prospects close themselves. Then we move on to number 8, the expectation bridge. And this is the thing that will kill a lot of great results. So you can get a client from 5K to 15K a month in 90 days, 3 times the growth, and they can still be disappointed. How? They expected 50K a month. So this is the kind of value or the equation that I use to every single time that we use for satisfaction, right? So satisfaction is the actual result that they got after the program over the expected result. That is how you calculate satisfaction. So client satisfaction isn't just about actual results. It's about the gap between expectations and reality. I'm sure you've noticed this if you have an offer yourself. Scenario A, let's say you underpromise, right? If they expected 10K a month and they get 15K a month, their satisfaction is 1.5, right? They're ecstatic. The result is a raving testimonial. Scenario B is when you overpromise. They expected 50K a month, they got 15. The satisfaction is 30%, which is angry. Result is a refund request. So if you get, let's say, 15K for them as an actual result and they expected 15K, you got satisfaction level 1. Satisfaction level 1 is the baseline where someone's just like, cool, I got the result I want, I'm happy. As you go over and over and over in terms of satisfaction, as you overpromise, those extra, 1.5, 2, 3 satisfactions, that makes them exponentially more likely to recommend you to another human being. Which means this is one of the most important parts of that specific flywheel we were talking about at the start of the video. If you mess this up, your flywheel is going to be basically just like broken in half. Now, in the same situation of the expected 50K a month scenario, if they came to you, they probably came to you with the expected 10K a month, right? They thought they would get 10K a month and then you overpromised yourself. Most of the time, this is what happens. Most of the time, they expected 10K a month and then you yourself overpromised and said you would get them to 50K a month. This will then result in the satisfaction equally being bad because they achieved their ideal outcomes in this situation and they still left because expectations were misaligned. You made them think that they would get to 50K a month, even though they were happy at 10K a month. This is why the education sector has one of the highest chargeback rates. Most of these chargebacks come from dissatisfaction with content, which is really just expectation mismatch. You can deliver 7-figure results, but if they expected 8 figures in half the time, they will be unhappy, right? So how do you fix this? You want to set expectations during onboarding explicitly. Here's a typical timeline. Here's what to expect in week 1, 2, 4, 8. Some people go faster, some slower, but this is the basic path that they follow. Now, when things happen on the timeline, the client's brain confirms that this is going as expected, I'm on track. If you never set a timeline, the client has no reference and assumes, quote, it should be faster. Very, very understandable assumption, right? So this is the framework you want to follow. On a sales call, you want to set a realistic range. This is actually really important in this situation. When you're setting the realistic range, you have to figure one thing out. At the start, when you're doing your first few, fulfillments, right? When you're fulfilling for the first few clients, every single one of those clients are going to have some kind of expectation. But you don't know the exact results that you can get those clients. So every single time you want to start, you have to do the following. You have to find the sweet spot between too much and too little being promised. Because if you promise too little, then at that point, your marketing is going to suffer and you're going to be getting less total clients into the actual program. And otherwise, if you promise way too much, you're going to get way more clients into the program, but you're going to get exponentially more refunds. So you have to keep on tweaking your prices, tweaking your promises over and over and over until you find the sweet spot where clients are getting those results no matter what. And on top of that, they're really happy with paying your price for those results. Because if you promise them, if you can get them to 10K a month, but you promise them 1K a month just to be safe, but you actually charge 3K, that's a way, way worse offer than if you just said 5K or 8K or 10K a month, because you don't know where you can get them. So you have to find that out first, and then you can find the sweet spot and you can set that realistic range. This is why I always say just start off with a few free clients and then you will get the gist of exactly what you need to do. And then from there, it'll be way easier. Then there's onboarding. You want to have them get the explicit timeline, through a VA, through on a call, whatever it might be. Then you want to have a weekly call with progress against timeline. You want to cover their progress against timeline. So then if they get milestones, so you want to celebrate being on track or ahead, right? That's a milestone. Even being on track is a milestone. You want to celebrate that specific thing because you want to give them weekly dopamine hits from talking with you. The underpromise, and I call this the underpromise over-deliver framework. I know, very, very creative. So let's say on a sales call, you say most clients get 5 to 10 clients in 90 days. Some get more, some get fewer, but that's the realistic range. Client gets 8, they're thrilled because they just beat the middle of the range. Versus on a sales call, you tell them you'll get 20 clients in 60 days guaranteed. Client gets 8, they're very, very pissed because you failed them. It's the same actual result, but 8 clients, but it's a completely different experience. And this client would probably be happy with the closing if you just told them 8 clients, but now you told them 20. You lied to them basically. And now they're pissed. So you want to frame the journey, not just the destination. Month 1, learn the system. Month 2, first results, probably 1 to 3K. And this is basically the part where I talked about the onboarding, right? So this is the explicit timeline. This is something like, let's say your timeline looks as follows. Month 1, learn the system. Month 2, first results, probably 1 to 3K. Month 3, momentum builds 5 to 10K. And then month 4 to 6, you want to scale to 15 to 30K. Now, when they hit 8K in month 3, they're ahead of schedule. The industry, now most of the time, the industry pushes sell the dream, big promises to close the sale. But big promises result in expectation mismatch, which results in refunds, which results in bad reviews, which results in churn. Realistic expectations mean exceeded expectations, which means raving fans and referrals. Really basic stuff. And now finally, number 9, the implementation roadmap. What to actually do with all this. So I just threw a lot at you, so let me make this simple. You don't need to implement everything at once. You need to implement the right things in the right order. So onboarding first, always. Why? Because it's the highest leverage fix. Moving first value from day 10 to day 5 dropped churn under 3%. That's a 5-day shift, potentially 50 to 90% reduction in dropouts. No other change gives you that ROI. So week 1 to 2, you want to fix the onboarding. So the first 72 hours protocol. Week 3 to 4, you want to build the accountability system, check-ins, micro commitments, all that. Week 5 to 6, create win capture process, testimonials and milestones. Week 7 to 8, you want to structure the community, pods, win rituals, all that. And week 9 plus, you want to optimize the expectations. So timeline, under promise framework, all that. Now, what is the whole point of this? Get 70 to 80% of your clients getting results. Not 30, not 50, not 70 to 80%. That is when the flywheel kicks in. That is when social proof does the selling. That's when you can charge premium. That is when referrals start compounding. Most coaches try to scale volume before proving that they can get results. Then churn kills them. Testimonials are weak. Their close rates stay low. They're stuck on the treadmill. The ones who win do the opposite. Prove exceptional fulfillment at small scale, and then on the back of testimonials, they start scaling. Get 10 clients to 100K before 100 clients to 100K. You want to go for this way, right? Fix the fulfillment first, get the flywheel set up, and then you can scale way faster than scaling volume first. Trust me. Now, look, this is a lot to implement on your own. If you want someone to just build this whole system for you, we can do that, right? The onboarding, the accountability, the proof capture, all of it. There's a link in the description. We work with coaches and consultants who already have an audience and want to actually monetize properly. Not by getting more views, you already have views, but by converting those views into clients who get results and refer their friends. So you're probably getting DMs at this point, right? From people who want to learn your business model, because you might be making 10K, 50K a month off of some kind of business model that you're doing. Let's say trading, e-com, dropshipping, whatever. And you can teach other people to do that and help them make money themselves. And people are DMing you, trying to learn from you, but you just don't have that info business and you don't have that whole infrastructure set up to get those results and not waste a ton of time on the back end. So if you want somebody to build out all that system for you and add another 50 to 100K a month on the back of your business and add another 50 to 100K a month in cash flow, check the link out down below if it sounds interesting, or don't. It's up to you. Either way, start with the onboarding. It is the highest leverage fix you can make right now. Hope you got a ton of value from that video. If you did, go ahead and check this one out right here because YouTube thinks that you'll like it. If you want to watch another one of these videos, you can go ahead and check out the whole playlist up here, or you can watch the second video down below over here as well. Anyways, hoping to see you in one of these 2 videos. Goodbye.